Perfect. So we're in a Pilates yoga blend for 30 minutes, and everything should be really safe on your bodies the whole time. So just keep that first priority. If you don't have a squishy ball, again, just a thin pillow to slide underneath your back sometimes, that'll be great, or even a blanket just to slide underneath. Then you'll probably be able to keep your legs up longer. We tend to do a little bit more Pilates, I would say, than yoga, but it's all a balance of strength and kind of lengthening at the same time. So let's get started on our mats. And I like to have my weighted balls, if you have them at home, just either side of my mat. And today we're going to start with a squishy ball underneath our right foot. If you don't have a squishy ball, it's no problem. We're starting with leg slides with our breath work at the beginning, but you can just slide your leg forward and back with your heel on the ground. So don't worry if you don't have one, but if you have one, it will be a little bit more work for your core. So I'm going to slide the squishy ball just underneath my right foot, and I have my back just neutral, and I can have my hands on my low belly. So I'm going to start to glide my right leg forward, and you're really light on the ball, and then we glide the foot back in toward you. So slide the ball forwards, the leg extends long, and then pull the ball back in. And we want to be super light on the ball. We have a lot of strength starting at the low belly, or at least a little bit of strength happening at the low belly. Now, if you have your weighted balls or any weights at home, you can hold them, reach your arms up towards the ceiling, and have your palms just facing into midline, so towards center. And you can do this without weights as well, with the arms up. And then as your leg slides forwards, we're going to let both arms just stretch back about halfway behind you. And then as your leg draws in, the arms are lifting up, wrists over the top of the shoulders. So your legs are going to slide forwards, both arms are pulling back, and then everything's drawing back into center. So hopefully feeling a little bit of work building through low belly. There will be a little bit of work happening at the front of the hip to pull the leg back in, and you're really soft on the ball. And if you have your weights, you're likely starting to feel it in your arms, even though we've just done a few. So try about 3 more like this. 2 more. And then last one. Now we're going to keep really light on the ball. And when your arms lift up, you're just going to start to place the arms all the way down. Take your hands behind the back of the head, elbows wide. We're going to include a little sit-up. So we're going to start to slide the leg forwards and lift the chest up a little bit. The chin is off the chest. And then we're going to drag the leg back in, and the head will rest back down on the ground. So you'll exhale. You're lifting your chest up a little bit. The chin stays off the chest. The leg comes long. And then we're lowering the head down, and the leg pulls back in. So keep going like this. I'll show it without the ball too, because probably a lot of us don't have the ball at home. So just be on your heel, sliding the leg forwards, stretching the leg long. It's still the same stuff. And then lowering the head down, and the leg pulls back in. So you're just doing the same thing. Depending on your mat, your foot might be getting a little bit stuck if the mat is really sticky, but just as best as you can, sliding the leg forward. Taking maybe 3 more like this. We should be feeling it through the whole core now, upper and lower core muscles. 2 more. Remember that the chin's off the chest. We want that length there. We don't want to be tucking the chin in too much. This is the last one. And then you can place that right foot on the ground if it's on the ball, and then take your arms down alongside the body. So between sides, let's take some bridge lifts. Feet are hip distance apart. Start to lift the back, just one bone at a time up off of the ground, and then start to lower your back down to the ground, just one bone at a time. So it's pretty slow. We're lifting the hips up. We're gonna get the glutes and the hamstrings super active, and then we're lowering the back all the way down to the ground. Try and keep looking up to the ceiling so that way you know that your chin's not tucked in too much if you're looking straight up. The next time that your hips are at the top of your bridge, we're just going to keep them there. So hips stay tall, and then we're going to start to let both feet, all the toes pull up towards the shins. So you're just on your heels, and then you're letting your toes press down to the ground, and you're letting your heels lift up off the ground. Let your heels both place down to the ground, and then let your toes peel up towards the shins. Then let your toes place down and the heels lift up. One more either direction. Heels down, toes up, toes down, heels up. Then just let your heels come down. Start to let the back roll down to the ground. So just one bone at a time, really smooth with that movement. And then find the ball if you've got one for underneath your left foot. Hands can start at the low belly and start to just glide the left leg forward and then drag the left leg back in. And we want it to be really light on the ball. So we want to try to make sure that the ball stays super inflated. The ball that I'm using, I've taken a lot of the air out, so it might look like I'm sinking heavy on it, but just not inflated that much. Try and be really light on the ball, or you're having your heel just push forward on the ground and then pull back. And we want to feel that both the left and the right hip bone are level with each other. We want the pelvis to be very level. Sometimes as the left leg pushes forwards, the left hip will get heavier because it's more strength on your left side to keep the pelvis steady when the leg's extended. So try and really focus on that. And then if you want a bit more work, your arms are stretching to the ceiling. You could use weights if you like. Let your arms stretch back halfway as your left leg comes forwards, and then everything's pulling in at the same time. So you're letting your arms stretch back halfway, and then letting everything pull in. As you do this, your back is just staying same shape, so hopefully fairly neutral, long through your back. Your core muscles are going to be working to keep your back long, especially as your arms stretch back. It's a lot more work for the upper core muscles to make sure that the chest doesn't kind of pop up towards the ceiling. Good. Let's take 2 more like this with your arms. 1, moving super slow. Last one, 2. And then when your arms lift up, place your arms down to the ground. You're still light on the ball if you've got it. Hands behind the back of the head, continuing leg slides with an ab curl. You're going to exhale, lift your chest up, stretch your left leg forward, and then lower your head down and pull the ball back in. So lift your chest up, chin is off the chest, and then you're lowering back down with the head as the leg pulls in. Leg stretches forwards, chest is lifting up. You can see it, I'm only lifting a little bit. I'm not getting like a huge round through the back. It's almost like you just want your shoulder blades to like hover off the ground. Think of more about lifting up towards the ceiling than thinking about moving the chest forwards. Keep the low belly heavy or just drawing down as the chest lifts. 2 more like this. Chest lifts, head lifts. lowering. Last one, chest lifts. And then we're lowering down. Now take the ball out. We have feet hip distance apart. Our arms are going to stretch to the ceiling with the palms facing forwards with a fairly neutral spine. So without a roll, you're going to try and lift into a bridge and press your arms down to the ground. And then same, without rolling your back too much, let your back come down to the ground and your arms lift up. Hips lift up, arms press down. And then it's like you just fold at the hips for the back to come down and the arms to lift up. Pressing the hips up, arms down, back down, arms up. Keep trying that. 2 more. Backs of the legs starting to feel it. Last one, hold the hips up. We're gonna let both hips lift just an inch higher and then an inch lower. An inch higher and an inch lower. Higher and lower. So glutes are probably feeling that quite a bit. Take 3 more pulses like this. 1, 2, and 3, and then lowering your back all the way down to the ground. We're going to find the squishy ball if you've got it, and we're going to slide it underneath the very low back. If you don't have the ball, that's when maybe you would use the pillow underneath the back. If you have weights, you can reach for them and reach your arms up to the ceiling as an option. Right leg is going to lift up into tabletop. So arms up, right leg up, left foot still on the ground. We're going to start with letting the right leg come a little bit wider towards the right, and then let it draw back into center. So the right thigh bone is coming wider to the right, and then back into center. As your right leg gets wider, we're going to start to let your left arm stretch backwards. So the left arm is going to pull back as the right leg stretches wide. Try and take this just a few times, focusing on only moving those 2 parts of the body. Right leg wider, left arm back. Everything else tries very much to be still. Okay, let's take your last one like this. When they draw in, you're going to include your left leg up, so both legs in table, both arms up. If right away it feels wobbly, just take your arms down. We're going to tap our right toes down and forwards in marching, and then lift that thigh up. Tap your left toes down, and then lift back up. Right toes tap down, and lift. Left toes tap down, and lift. Keep going. We're going to start to let both arms come out wide as your toes come down. So arms come wide and lift. Arms come wide as the toes come down and lift. Make sure that your knee is coming really far forward from your hip as your toes come to the ground. You're really light with the toes tapping. You should feel a lot of work at the low belly. We're not moving too quick. We're going to just take 1 more on either leg. So end with your left leg lifting up. And once your left leg has lifted, place your right foot to the ground. Now we're going to start to let your left leg come wider. If you're on a squishy ball, it's going to be a little bit wobbly, and then you're lifting your leg back to center. So left leg's coming wider. We want the knee and the ankle both wider, and then back to center. We're trying to get strength for the obliques while we do this. Start to let your right arm, if you want more work, come back behind you as your left leg comes wide. Trying to stay really focused here. Lots of core strength. Lots of stability work. 2 more. Last one. When your leg and your arm lift up, you're letting your right leg lift back up to table. Then both legs straight to the ceiling, and we have both arms up. Let's let both of our arms come out halfway towards the ground in a T shape, so out wide. Point your toes, let your right leg come halfway down to the ground, and then let it lift back up in a single leg lift. Let your left leg come halfway down to the ground, and then exhale to lift it up. Inhale, right leg comes halfway down. Exhale, the leg is lifting all the way up. Inhale, left leg comes halfway down. Exhale, leg is lifting all the way up. One more either leg. This one is the last. And then your arms are going to lift all the way up. Now we're going to let our arms stretch back only halfway behind us. Then same thing with the legs. Right leg halfway forwards and down. Exhale to lift. Left leg halfway forwards and down. Exhale to lift. Right leg. Exhale. Left leg. Exhale to lift. 2 more either leg. Last one, both legs. Keep looking to the ceiling, keep steady. And then once your left leg lifts, let your arms lift, bend your knees to table, right foot down to the floor, and then left foot down to the ground. Let your arms come down, lift your hips up, take the ball out or pillow out, take the ball or pillow off to the side, and then we're gonna just roll over onto our right side. So you can stretch your right arm up and then roll over onto your right side. 2 options here. If you have any sensitivity at your right shoulder, I would probably stay resting down on your side, like all the way down on your arm with your arm extended, probably a pillow underneath your head. If you want more strength for your upper back, then you're going to come up onto your right forearm. And I have my forearm, elbow, and wrist just in line with the top of my mat. And then this way, right away, you're going to be getting strength for your upper back and your right shoulder. Left hand on your left hip, knees are bent, and then start to push your left hip down so that the sides of the waist get long. Then we're going to lift our top leg, our left leg, and then just lower it down. Lift the top leg and lower it down, and just continue like that. Lifting and lowering, and you're going to get this really good strength through the outer glute. And then you can take your left hand to the ground. So you're either up on your forearm, and we want to have our elbow pretty much underneath our shoulder. If you've had any kind of sensitivity or injury in your shoulder, then you lay all the way down with your right arm resting on the ground. Good. Now we're going to hold our left leg up, and with a bent knee, we're going to start to pull the thigh in towards the belly, and then we're letting the leg push back. Knee comes pretty much straight below the hip. So we're letting the thigh pull up towards the belly, then we're letting the thigh pull back away from us. I have my hand just on my hip. I want my hip to be pretty still as my leg is moving. Good. So I can feel strength building at my upper back and strength building through, of course, the outside of the glute here on the top leg, and some strength for the sides of the waist. So if you're laying all the way down, then there's a little bit less strength, I would say, at the sides of the waist. You want to make sure it feels safe everywhere. Take 2 more like this with your legs. Last one, forward and back. Good, and then you're gonna let that leg come all the way down. If you're lying down, you'll have to lift up onto your forearm so that you can come into your tabletop. So hands and knees. Now, I'm going to take my wrists forwards of my shoulders. So it's not quite in a tabletop. I still have my back flat, but I have my hands, wrists forwards of my shoulders. This way I can come into a plank on my hands and my knees, and I want my back to stay long here. So back is super long, belly is lifting up, and then I'm just going to let my hips land back over top of my knees. Then I'm going to let my hips come forwards so that I'm in my plank on my hands and knees, core, back, arms all working. And then I'm letting my hips just glide back a little bit. You can have toes tucked or untucked, whatever feels more comfortable on your feet. Trying to keep our back pretty long. So when the hips come forward, back is really long. And then when your hips come back, you're still trying to keep some length there. So trying not to get too much rounding. If this is feeling like, yeah, this is okay, but I could do a little bit more work, the next time that your hips come forwards, you're going to stay there. And if you're like, no, this is enough work, you're going to keep moving like this. So if you want more work when your hips are forwards, we're going to just start to, we really want the core muscles to be active before the knees lift, but you're going to start to exhale, lift your knees up so you're in a full high plank. Inhale, knees down to the ground. And we don't want any swaying in the back. So you're going to exhale, lift your knees up. Inhale, lower the knees down. Last one like that. Lifting your knees up and then lowering down. Now, wherever you are, we're going to start to come up into a high kneeling shape. You're going to find your weights if you've got them and just stretch your arms out to the sides. Now, you're going to start to keep your arms long. You're just going to tip towards the left a little bit, keeping your arms long. And then right now, we're going to start to feel it through the right side of the waist to strengthen. And then you're going to feel your right side of the waist lift you up to a long back. So we're going to lean over to the right. Watch that my arms aren't moving so much, only my back is moving. And then my left obliques, my left side of the waist, is going to lift me back up, shoulders over the hips. So we're going to tip over towards the left a little bit. Now the right side of the waist really should engage. My arms haven't like shifted or swayed. And then my side of my waist is lifting me. Lean over to the right. Try and make sure that the arms aren't moving too much. And then the left side is lifting, and one more either side. Lean over to the left. And then we have the right side lifting you. Last one here, leaning over to the right. And then we have the left side lifting you. Then take your arms all the way down, take your weights down if you have them. And we're gonna land on our left side. So if you were lying down with a pillow, you can stretch your left arm long and you can have your pillow underneath your left ear, right hand on the right hip, and you're pushing your hip down. If you wanna get that added strength for your back, you're having your left forearm down on the ground, still right hand to the right hip for now, and you're just starting with bent knees, lifting and lowering this top leg, the right leg. We want to focus on the long sides of the waist. And if you're on your forearm, you want to make sure there's quite a bit of space between your shoulder and your ear on your left side. If you end up resting kind of like this, then we're going to be getting not what I'm looking for. So really try and keep that length because we want the back to be as if you're standing. So this is kind of, I'm showing my spine is long. Good. And if for balance, you want to have your right hand on the ground in front of you, you can do that as well. So the next time that the top leg is up, you're going to keep it there. And then your right hip is going to stay still. You're going to let your right thigh bone come in towards you. Still keep a bend in the knee. Then you're pushing your right leg right back so that the knee is about underneath the hip. Right thigh bone just pulls forwards and then pushes back, pulling forwards, and keep watching that the neck doesn't kind of relax too much. If you find that your neck is kind of relaxing head to shoulder, then just rest all the way down on your side and focus on the strength for the outer glute. Otherwise, you'll start to feel the upper back really working, pushing yourself away from the ground, and sides of the waist working and outer glute. So lots of options here to get strength in many parts of the body at once. Good, take 2 more like this. Last one. And then when your leg's coming forwards, you just place that top leg down on the bottom. And then if you're lying all the way down, you'll push yourself up onto your forearm. And then we're gonna come back into your tabletop. So hands and knees shape. We're gonna start to make some circles with your right leg. Just a few here. You have a bend in your right knee, circling thigh bone in the hip. The next time that your knee is about underneath the hip, you're going to try and pull the thigh towards the belly and step your right foot in between your hands. You're going to use your hands to push your chest all the way up so that you're in kind of a low lunge shape. Then I want us to inch our front foot forwards a little bit. Then I'm going to start to sink a little bit deeper into my lunge. And I want to make sure I've moved my foot forward so that my knee doesn't pass my ankle when I relax my hips and sink down. Then you're going to use your front hamstring to push yourself back, shoulders back over the hips. And you can see my knee is behind my ankle, and then I'm just sinking my hips down and letting the inner thighs relax to stretch the left hip. Then I'm going to use my right hamstring for strength to push myself back up, shoulders over top of the hips. So I'm relaxing the hips, just sinking forwards, and then using my front hamstring to push myself back. Now I'm going to stay pushed back, let my left hand come to the ground, right arm stretch up to the ceiling, and a little bit of a twist. And then a right hand to the ground, right knee back. Then same on the left side, I'm starting to make circles with a bent knee, circling my left leg. Just looking down towards the floor. Trying to keep my right thigh bone still. And then the next time that the left knee is about underneath the left hip, I'm going to start to pull my left thigh bone towards the belly to try and step my foot in between my hands. My hands are going to just lift myself all the way up. Then I'm going to start to let my left foot inch a little bit farther forwards. Then I'm going to start to let my hips sink forward and down so that I'm stretching my back front hip on my right side. And then my left hamstring is going to work to push myself back up. So my shoulders are over my hips, my back stays long though. So sinking forwards, you're stretching your front hip on the back leg, and then you're using the front hamstring to push yourself up. So we're stretching the back leg, and then we're getting strength on the front leg to push yourself up. Make sure you're trying to find those muscles for the stretch and then for the strength. Good, so just one more like this, sinking forwards, the hips are staying square, and then one more time, you're just pushing yourself up, then you're letting your right hand come to the floor, left arm stretch up to the ceiling in a twist. Good, and then let your left hand come down to the ground, left knee pulls back, lift your hips up into a downward dog shape, so hips come up towards the ceiling. Then just start to pedal out through your legs. You're just bending one knee, and then the other one heel's coming to the ground, and then the next. Last 2 breaths here. And then you're bending your knees until your knees come all the way down to the ground. You can sit back on your heels. If you've got any more time for stretching, I recommend it. Otherwise, we're all finished. So I will see you next week.